Hello there, people of the internet. I'm out here doing some ammunition testing, and I figured this would be a fun time. So I got my Utreon Mauser. You guys have seen this on the channel a couple of times now. This is a 1916 Utreon Mauser. It used to be chambered in 7mm Mauser, and it has been rechambered for 7.62 setme technically, but it fires 7.62 NATO just fine. And I have shot a lot of 7.62 NATO ammunition through this thing. That's how I know that it fires it just fine. However, I want to take this one hunting, and 7.62 NATO is a full metal jacket round. So as a result, well, in order to go hunting with this thing, I've gone hunting with this thing before, don't get me wrong, but in order to go hunting with this thing, I have to load soft point projectiles onto, you know, I basically have to load my own soft point ammunition to 7.62 NATO specifications. However, I have found that 7.62 NATO, or 308, I'm going to go ahead and use those interchangeably. They're technically not interchangeable. The pressure systems are going to be a little bit different. But if I say 308 just randomly in this video, just know that I'm talking about your 7.62 NATO. However, whenever it comes to 7.62 NATO here in the state of Florida, that's a 150 grain projectile traveling at about 2,800 feet per second or so, and our deer here only get to be like a maximum of around 150 pounds. You might find a bigger one if you're lucky, but that's definitely on the rarer occasion. And I have found that a 150 grain projectile traveling at 2,800 feet per second does a lot of damage to the meat of the deer. So there's a lot that is that is basically just discarded and it's wasted, and I don't like that. So I actually, what's the word I'm looking for? Underloaded some 308 ammunition with some soft point rounds. So this is not 7.62 setme soft, I don't think. I'm not sure. I didn't actually calculate the amount of foot-pounds of energy that's going to be going on a target. But 7.62 setme, which is what this rifle was originally quote-unquote chambered for, was a 113 grain projectile traveling at, I can't remember, 2,600 feet per second, I think. So that is significantly less powerful than 7.62 NATO. However, I don't have any 113 grain projectiles. Otherwise, I would try to mimic 7.62 setme because, hey, that would make a fun video. I do, however, have some 150 grain projectiles, not 115 grain, 150 grain projectiles. And according to my calculations, I'm using a relatively slow burning powder, and I should get around 2,400 to 2,300, 2,400 feet per second or so with this right here. I'm not quite positive. I haven't chronographed it. By my calculations, it should be about 2,350, but of course, minor deviations and stuff, like the slightest amount of change would dramatically throw your velocities one way or the other. But I should get around 2,350 with this, so that is significantly less velocity than your what's the one I'm looking for? Your 7.62 NATO, which is at 2,800 feet per second. And I'm sure there's some people out there who are going to be asking me, hey, why not just go to a new cartridge if you're going to be rocking something like that, and you want something that is slower moving and still a 30 caliber round, just use a 30-30 or something like that. Well, the goal is to be able to use my Milsurp rifles chambered in 7.62 NATO. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. So I have a couple of downloaded cartridges here, and I'm actually out here to test the capabilities of these downloaded cartridge. When I say download, and people are like, what's the link to where I can download this stuff? Haha, you're real funny, guys. Downloaded, underloaded, undercharged. Pick your terminology here. But this right here is undercharged by about 10% of what it would normally be at, and that normal charge would send it flying at about 2,600 or so feet per second. So with this being the case, I do not know whether or not, whenever these rifles were converted to 7.62 setme, I do not know if the sights were updated for this new level of projectile. However, I do know that at 100 yards, the 100-yard sight, the setting for the 100-yard sight on this Leaf sight hits right at point of aim with 7.62 NATO. So since this right here is less velocity than that, according to the math that I have done inside my brain, that is inside of my skull, retained inside of my head. According to the math that I've done, a 500-yard zero, which is what I currently have this zeroed at, that should give us a solid, what's the word I'm looking for? That should be right at point of aim at 100 yards with the velocities that we are getting with this thing. So I don't know how true that is. We're definitely going to test out my math here. So I'm going to grab my projectile, my cartridge here, and I'm actually going to walk out to 100 yards. I don't have a camera stand with me, so you guys are going to stay right here. I just have a piece of wood mounted to this tree, and that's where my camera is. I'm going to go out to 100 yards. I got a box down there with a little duct tape X on it. The box has been shot already, but I've covered the holes so I can see where it is that I'm going to hit. And in theory, according to the mathematical nonsense that rages in my brain, according to what I've managed to figure out, this 500-yard zero should give us right at point of impact on that duct tape X. Might be a slightly high or slightly low, but I bet that we're going to be pretty gosh darn close. I'm willing to bet that we're probably going to be a little on the low side, maybe an inch to 2 inch. Hold on, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and show this. The brass that I have here is actually, it was fired in, I think, a G3 or PTR or something like that, because it has those HK lines all over it. I don't have a G3 or PTR or anything like that, so I'm not the one who fired this brass. This is just secondhand brass that I had gotten off of somebody. They did not load it for me. I loaded this, but this right here is secondhand brass. Let's see how this brass holds up. I'm fairly certain it's safe to say that this brass was only fired the one time, because after these are fired from the G3 series, you have to resize your brass. And if these are fired multiple times through the G3 series, I feel like we would see more of those lines, the HK lines that we see on the cartridges. Okay, let me walk out. Okay, well, let's walk over there and see what that looks like. Alright, well, exactly as predicted. My aim point was about right here, and we are only slightly low on that, so it looks like my math did work out. That 500-yard zero, and we're about, I don't know, 2 inches low or so, so that is definitely good enough for me. Okay, up next, why not already? Let's go ahead and test power. I got me a water jug here. Let's see what this ammunition does to this water jug. It didn't feel overly powerful. It felt right around the realms of about a 30-30 or so. So I'm not sure of the accuracy I would get at long distances with this thing. As a matter of fact, I would like to see this cartridge at long distances. But before we go doing that, we're going to send this water straight to hell. I feel like that's probably a little too close, but you know what? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. No deformation, no bulging, no anything like that. Nothing out of the ordinary on that cartridge. Okay, well, let's load up another round here. Send it downrange and watch it completely annihilate. I'm having some problems with the extractor on this thing, by the way. If you see me struggling with this rifle, just the extractor. I got a new one coming. I had to finagle this extractor to work in this rifle, and I had to do some grinding and some bending and whatnot. And the extractor, I mean, it works, sort of, sometimes, but not all the time. There we go. We got us a good solid seat that time. Let's go ahead, hit this water. Can you guys see that water? I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera. Alright, that ought to be a better angle. Let's hit this water, see if it explodes. Yeah, it exploded. that would definitely solve the problem. It's definitely not like a full power 30-06 or anything like that, but that is a comfortable amount of power transferred onto the target. Right there's our entrance wound, just a little hole, and our exit wound from the transfer of energy into that water is significantly larger. So that is actually kind of nice. Well, I got a round left, so let's go ahead and shoot our steel target. Why not? Okay, yeet. Got to be kind of aggressive with this finagled extractor. Let's send a round. And we hit our steel. Man, that felt good. Hitting steel with ammunition that, yeah, loaded at home. That's fantastic. Okay, cool. Well, I'm actually very pleased with this ammo. It's accurate, it's powerful enough. I feel like that this will definitely get the job done. I will have to record this loading into my logbooks of various loadings that I use for, what would I call this? Because, I mean, it's not 7.62 NATO and it's not 7.62 set me. I don't know, I'll come up with a name for it later. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. That being said, you guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see y'all on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.